Hey everyone, Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of what T4Tactics does, the services that we offer. We primarily do active shooter response training, active attack prevention, and mitigation. We're going to talk about that. Most active shooter attacks, most violent attacks are preventable. So we travel out to businesses, churches, schools, hospitals, universities. We've done all types of facilities that you can imagine, food manufacturers, auto manufacturers. We're going to focus during that training on the prevention. How do we prevent something like this from happening? And there's a lot of folders and subfolders in that. We're also going to talk about the mitigation. Heaven forbid it does happen. How do we have the building, through a facility review that we'll do, how do we have the building work for us and not against us in the attack? We do de-escalation and interpersonal skills. I find that a lot of people lack the ability to properly communicate now. We don't know how to shut somebody down or to how to get them on our side if there's a verbal argument or a misunderstanding. This is Customer Service 101, and this is about a 2.5-hour presentation where we talk about how do we de-escalate somebody? How do we show them respect? How do we win the fight? What we don't want somebody to do. Let's talk about customer service. You have a customer that comes into your place of employment, or even an employee that goes sideways. They're very angry and irate. The reason we do de-escalation is we don't want them to go out to their car and get something and come back in and harm people. Or we don't want them to leave angry, whether it's a customer or an employee. We don't want people leaving our facility angry and they go home and start stewing on it, and now they're in the the developmental phases of an active shooter. We'll also do debriefing and reunification of businesses and employees after a critical incident. Usually I can be on site within 48 hours. If it's in the Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, upper DC, Baltimore area, I can be there a lot quicker, of course. But what we'll do is, if there's a violent attack, whether it's an armed robbery where a clerk is injured or, heaven forbid, killed, or any type of violent incident, we're going to come out and we're going to debrief the employees. I've got some background in debriefing people. When I was an investigator at the police department, we did a lot of debriefings on the SWAT team with the fire department, special services unit, special investigations unit, and we're going to come out and debrief. What we are not is, I'm not a counselor, so I'm not going to counsel them, but we're going to talk about what they did. Was it acceptable or not acceptable? We're not there to beat people up, but we also want to show, the reason this is beneficial is it shows the employees that, hey, my boss cares enough to find out what exactly happened here, and then what can we do to prevent this from occurring again. That's the mitigation, that's the prevention. We're going to sit down with the employees. We're also going to meet with them confidentially with no bosses in the room. They're going to tell me confidentially what they feel is right and wrong about the security and safety of that business. I'm going to go tell the bosses, the CEO, the bigwigs on what was said, but not who said it. The biggest thing we can do is work as a team to reduce injuries and save lives. If we work as a team and we have open communication, we're less likely to be attacked. My clients, all the communication that I do between my clients are strictly confidential. When you work with me, you're just working with me. Your emails are not answered by anybody else. Your phone calls are not answered by anybody else. The proposal that I send you is done by me. Everything is me. And I learned in the Special Investigations Unit when I was a supervisor that you have to keep your mouth shut. What business I learn is not anybody else's business. Let me just give you an example. I took a church safety seminar years ago out of state, and I didn't particularly agree with this. I think it was a good briefing, but they had an investigator come in, and he was going to give a debriefing of a murder of a church safety team member that had been killed, and the case had not gone to trial yet. But they had everybody leave the room, and then just certain people that were in charge of the church safety team for their particular church had to sign a confidential disclosure that you will not talk about what is said in there. So he went over the great details of the case. We took a break after that, and I go out in the parking lot, and I'm standing next to my vehicle eating lunch, and there's a group of 7 other people parked right next to me, and they're eating. One of those guys was in the confidential debriefing that I was in. And what does he do when he comes up to the 6 others? He says, hey guys, you got to keep this between us. We're not supposed to repeat it, but let me tell you about this case. Boom. There it goes. Now you've just told an additional 6 people, and I can guarantee you that they're going to go home to their family and friends, and they're going to say, hey, guess what I heard? Guess what I just heard? But don't tell anybody. We have to keep confidential. I'm told a lot of things from HR specialists that probably, well, that I know should not get out to other employees or to the general public. So when you work with T4Tactics, you work with me, Marco Galbraith, whatever you tell me is going to be kept in strict confidential. It's not shared with anybody else. My background, you can see my background here. It's extensive with mostly investigations. Most of my career was in investigations. My areas of instruction, you'll see on there the commander of the hostage negotiation rescue team. I put that in highlighted because I think that's very important. When we talk about de-escalation, we talk about, that's hostage negotiation 101. When we do the de-escalation training, and that's in the active shooter training, or you can have it as standalone. When we do that, we talk about hostage negotiation 101. It's how we talk to people, how we deal with people. I was an adjunct instructor in different universities and colleges in Virginia and Florida. During my police career, I taught a lot of advanced police classes, law enforcement classes, firearms, advanced tactical situations, conflict resolution, high-risk traffic stops. You can read them. Right now, currently, I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia. And when I am in town, not traveling for active shooter response training, I teach the firearm safety course, which is the Virginia Concealed Permit course. We go above and beyond. There's a lot of people in my town that are teaching that course, just trading money for a certificate. I don't do that. I'm an NRA instructor and a USCCA instructor. Virginia says that I have to teach at least the minimum standards. We're going to go well above and beyond that because carrying a firearm is high liability. We got to make sure that you know everything plus more. Since 2013, I've been contracting with FBI and Secret Service to do dignitary protection details in Washington, D.C. And then I'm a member of the National Crisis Response Team in NCRT, VCART for Virginia, where we respond to critical incidents and we help people out. We support law enforcement. And we help victims, witnesses, families, survivors. So how do I know? How do I get my information? Where do I get my information that I talk to everybody about with active shooter response training? Years ago, when I was a police department, a police officer, and then years ago when I moved to Virginia, I took a lot of active shooter response training courses. Alert, Alice, CERT. There's a whole bunch of fancy names for them. And I took all those courses and I thought, I don't think the run, hide, fight is what we should be talking about. I don't think we should focus on that. I think it's important. It's an element, but I don't think we should focus on that. So about 10 years ago, I started traveling to these locations. Some of them that you're looking at now had already occurred. Some of them have not occurred. But I decided that what you need to know as a participant in my training is what went right and what went wrong. How do we correct that? So I've gone out to 16 of these locations that you're looking at on the screen, and I've interviewed a total of 97 people. Victims, witnesses, law enforcement, investigators, and I asked them, tell me how your day went. Tell me what happened that day. I'll talk to management. What went wrong? What went right? People are eager to talk about it. A lot of people, it's a healing process. They're eager to talk about it. So that's what we do. So in my presentations, you're not going to hear anything that was on Facebook, the University of Facebook. You're not going to hear anything from Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever it is now. You're not going to hear anything from Wikipedia or the news. Every single thing that I say is scholarly, evidence-based, primary source information from the locations that you're looking at here. And unfortunately, there will be more, and I'll go out to them and talk. But that's where you get the information from, is we have to learn, again, I'll say it again, we have to learn who made the mistakes, how were the mistakes made, what clues did they miss, and then during the mitigation process, what happened, what went right, what went wrong. Very important. People ask me, well, what is T4Tactics? T4Tactics, it's the top 4 tactics, T4Tactics, that you need to know to recognize that there's an attack or to get proper training and to keep your facility safe, reducing injuries and saving lives. The first one is you've got to recognize that attacks are a reality. You've got to have a threat assessment team and a policy. That's where you're going to pick up on something's getting ready to go sideways here. We've got to shut it down. Threat assessment teams are critical. We've got to have a learned Planned practice response. Very important. What are we going to do if this happens? How is my body going to act at 185 beats per minute? Do I have muscle memory? Do I know my exits? We're going to talk about all this, and it goes back to those 16 locations that I went out to and interviewed those 97 people. That's where this comes in. What did they do right and wrong? And then we have to have a recovery phase. And that's, once again, where I go out to these locations where they've had these horrible attacks, and we sit down and we get you back up and running. Humans need structure. People need structure. They need a schedule. We have to give people the ability to come back to church, to come back to work, to come back to school, to come back to the hospital, excuse me, wherever that occurred. Some people may need 6 months off. That's fine. Some people may never want to come back. That's fine. But there are a lot of people that want to jump right back into work. What do we do at the building? Because we can't let those people come right back in and see the same building. We obviously want to have the biohazards cleaned up before they come back in. So there's a lot to do to get back up and running, but we have to give people that opportunity. A lot of people will say, well, my boss just wants me to get back up and running because he or she just wants to make money. Okay, I'll give you that. That could be true. But a lot of people, let me tell you, a lot of these businesses I've gone to for reunification, getting them up and running, the bosses and the CEOs come in and say, we need to get people back here at work. We've got counselors here. We need to give them the opportunity to get back in their groove. Very, very important. We got to understand that every situation is unique by the attack, time, and location. That's why I don't come in and just tell you run, hide, fight. See you later. Have a good day. We're going to go way deep. We're going to go a lot deeper than just the run, hide, fight. We're going to talk about best practices for the education and confidence and skill to survive. So what is the best practice? What has worked in the past? What's the best thing we can do? We're going to talk about your company policy. I may tell you to do this or do that, or I'm going to give you a whole bunch of ideas to think outside the box in the event of an active shooter attack. You're not under your company policy all the time. When you're at the movie theater, when you're at the ball game, when you're at the mall, you're not under your company policy. But I do stress that when I'm teaching and talking to you in your company, that we follow the company policy. If the company policy says this during an active shooter attack, follow that policy because there's a reason for it. We got to have a trained response rather than an untrained response. We don't ever want to have an untrained response. We got to have a script. So I do a lot of firearms training. I've got a range here on my property, and I'll challenge myself. I'll do things that are extremely difficult. I'll shoot in the rain. I'll shoot when it's 7 degrees and very windy and snowing. I'll shoot in the dark at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't have neighbors, so they don't get on to me. But what I'm doing is I'm challenging myself. I'm making things difficult. If I can challenge myself in a self-defense situation under a controlled training environment where I'm stressed out, I'm wearing myself out, I've run around the field, I've done push-ups, sit-ups, lifted weights, and my heart rate is up. When that happens, when the boogeyman attacks me, my brain is going to go back to, you know what, you've already been under stress during training. You got this. It's the will set. It's the survival mindset. We have to create that survival mindset. Make yourself uncomfortable in training. When I do the firearms training, I stress, don't go to the range and just train or just shoot. Go to the range not only to practice, but go to the range to train. So don't go to the range to just practice or to shoot. Go to the range to train. Muscle memory. Make yourself uncomfortable. Just going to the indoor shooting range and picking up the gun from the platform and shooting it is not training. I have people that can hit the bullseye from 25 yards out. Excellent shot. Good job. I start doing stuff to them and throwing them stress, and now all of a sudden, you know what? Surprise, surprise, they're not such a good shot. So train yourself. Make yourself uncomfortable. Make that brain, if you are under attack, make that brain say, you know what? You got this. You've been in this situation before, and you're going to survive. So the active shooter prevention and response training, there's a lot of misconceptions of active shooter response training. A lot of people think it's only for large organizations and it won't happen here. I hear that all the time. I hear these small businesses, well, you know, we don't have that type of people, or we're not in that type of neighborhood. And I'm scratching my head thinking it's happened in all types of businesses. Mom and pop convenience stores. It's happened in large, huge manufacturing facilities. It won't happen here, or we're not in the right neighborhood. You know what I hear a lot also is, well, the sheriff's department is 2 blocks away, so we're safe. If it's a good police department operated by a good sheriff, the head sheriff or the chief of police, you don't have guys and girls in the police department. They're out working. You may have some detectives, but it's not like on TV where all the cops just hang around the cop shop. They're out working. If it's a well-run department, they're out working. So there's a lot of myths about where the police are coming from, and it won't happen here. It doesn't happen here until it happens here, and now it just happened here. Remember that. Sometimes people think it creates an unnecessary culture of fear. T4Tactics is not going to come in and promote fear. I don't sugarcoat it, but I also don't exaggerate it. I'm not there to promote fear. We can't live in fear or paranoia, but what we can live with is the skill, confidence, and understanding in the education to recognize something's going sideways, stop it before it happens, and then respond to it. My training is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I come out and do a facility review. Before I do the training, I want to be able to talk to the audience and say, you know how when you come out of the break room and you walk down the hallway and there's the bathroom, and then 2 doors down there's the HR office? We need to talk about that. We need to talk about that particular facility. So it's not one size fits all. It should not be one size fits all. It encourages vigilantism. That's not what it does. We're not going to encourage people to be vigilantes. We're not going to encourage active shooter. A lot of people say, well, we don't like guns on our property, or churches tell me all the time, we don't need active shooter training because we don't like guns on our property. It's not about guns. It's about prevention. I will tell you that the best and most efficient, quickest way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy or good girl with a gun. But I will say well-trained, legal, safe, reasonable, responsible gun owner with a firearm. But it's not about guns. Active shooter response training is not about guns. At least for me, it isn't. It's about mindset. It's about prevention measures. It's about threat assessment team. Some people think it focuses solely on law enforcement response. It doesn't. We have a lot of police departments now that are actually shutting down during certain hours of the night. They're not responding to things. We've got law enforcement agencies that are so overwhelmed and understaffed that it is actually taking them 2 and 3 hours to get to an in progress, violent, forcible felony. That's scary, folks. You got to remember you're on your own. You could be on your own. It assumes a specific role for the attacker. It doesn't. We don't know that. We don't know who the attacker is going to be. It's a one and done training. It is not a one and done training. I stay in contact with a lot of my clients, probably 90% of my clients. I'm constantly in contact with them because they're calling me and saying, hey, here's what our threat assessment team picked up. What should we do? And I'll give them advice. I'll give them guidance. One thing I don't like is there's a lot of companies out there doing what I'm doing. They're doing active shooter response training, and they're coming in and saying, we're going to teach you on tier 1, we're going to do this. We're going to teach you on tier 2 in 6 months. We're going to do this. Here's my problem. Why not come in and just teach everything at one time? Get everybody dialed in, because what if something happens in between tier 1 and tier 2? To me, that's a marketing gimmick. They're capturing you under a contract. T4Tactics training is, we're going to come in, we're going to spend a day and a half, and we're going to get everything done. We're going to get everybody dialed in. And then there'll be some follow-up phone calls, Zoom calls, where you have questions, or I check back with you to make sure you're doing everything right. Active shooter response only involves evacuation. That's not true. Evacuation is one of the main concepts that we go. Put distance between you and the shooter, but it's not just about that. And then they're saying, a lot of people say that it guarantees absolute safety. It doesn't. Like I said a few slides back, active shooter response training is on best known practices, and I can't come in and tell you, if this happens here, you do that, because we don't know if it's going to be one attacker, multiple attackers, if there's explosive devices, is there a secondary shooter out in the parking lot? We have to cover all that. What ifs is who, what, why, where, when, and how is what we're going to talk about. Why do we do active shooter training? We're going to mitigate casualties. Again, I'll say it again, reduce injuries and save lives. We're going to empower individuals. This training that a lot of businesses have me come in and do is not just for their location. A lot of these people that are in the training, a lot of the employees, whether they're students, employees, workers, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call them, whatever you call them at your facility, we're empowering them for when they're at the mall with their families, when they're at the theater, the movie theater with their family, with their kids' t-ball game. We're empowering them. The grocery store. We're teaching them the big picture of personal safety. It's going to have a faster response time because we've got people trained. We're seeing a lot more active shooter attacks. Active shooter attacks are on the rise, but injuries and fatalities are on the decline. And that's because we're getting people trained. We're shutting it down immediately. We're putting distance between us and the shooter. We've got areas of refuge. The shooters aren't getting in because we've created hard targets. So positive. We want to enhance communication. That's what the training is going to do. We're going to create awareness. We're going to promote preparedness. We're going to reduce panic. Once again, if you've practiced something, and I'm not a big fan of, well, I'm not a fan of all of coming into a business and shooting blank guns and doing a drill where you scare people. That's not what it's about. People get injured. People get traumatized. Police and military can live fire. They can turn it up a notch and bring up the stress. That's fine. But you don't do that to civilians. A problem I'm concerned about is if I come in and shoot a blank gun and I make somebody so petrified that now they can't come back to work the next day because they've heard gunfire in their office and they're scared, which could easily happen. We don't do that. It's not about panic. It's not about scaring people. But this training will reduce panic because people will know and understand we've got a threat assessment team. We've got people trained. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be okay. Improving communications with law enforcement. That is a big component to the training. Compliance with regulations. A lot of states now are mandating active shooter response training or violence in the workplace training. And then we're going to be adapting to evolving threats. There are a lot of evolving threats in our country, and there's going to be a lot more that we have to be aware of. So the outline for active shooter training, we're going to do a facility review. I'm going to come out and look at your facility. I'm going to get to know the location, what type of customers you have, the employees. We're going to look at what's behind your facility, what's down the street. Are there any threats? We're going to do a risk assessment, threat assessment, look at everything with facility. And then when we do the facility review, I'm going to walk around and say, and some of this stuff I'm gonna suggest is expensive, and some of it's free. You can do it yourself. But we're going to talk about you could put a mirror here for the purpose of this. You could put a heavier door and a lock here for the purpose of this. You got to fix this door because this could block somebody in. You got to do this to the outside of the building. You could put a light here, put cameras here. A lot of it, again, it goes back to those locations where I've physically gone out and visited these 16 locations, and I've thought to myself, if they had something here, those 3 people would be alive. If they hadn't had this on this part of the building, those people could be alive. So that's what I'm going to tell you in the facility review. We're going to have breaks and comforts. I don't allow any electronic recording or audio transmission, video transmission of my presentations. They're big on audience participation. I bring the audience in. There's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of personal things. Sometimes personal things come up. So we don't want those recorded or sent out electronically. A lot of it's copyright, proprietary information. So it's only meant for those people in the room. We're going to talk about the definition of an active shooter is defined by the FBI. We'll talk about copycat period. We're going to talk about why we're here. We'll do briefings. We're going to talk about a math and a time formula on why do we need to move very quickly. Why do we need to be trained, and why do we need to act when we hear boom, boom, boom? You need to act right then. We talk about left of bang, right of bang. We're going to explain that, but we need to move immediately. I'm going to show you a run, hide, fight video during the presentation. We just talk about just the basics, and we're going to talk about why I'm not a fan of run, hide, fight. A lot of law enforcement agencies are stuck on it. My personal humble opinion is it's a lazy, outdated approach of teaching active shooter response training. It is so much more than run, hide, fight. There's a lot of mental and physical components, along with physical with the building and physical with yourself, and mental components that run, hide, fight does not address. We'll talk about muscle memory, types of violence, human behavior, de-escalation, pre-attack indicators, situational awareness, how we react under stress. I'm going to tell you about how your body is going to go completely sideways when you're at 60 to 80 heartbeats a minute, then all of a sudden, bam, 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 and you go to 185. You're going to get completely stupid. If you're not trained, you're going to get stupid. And that's the nicest way I can put it. And we're going to teach you how to control that. How do we breathe? How do we recognize this is happening because I'm stressed out? My body is doing this to me because I'm stressed out. I can't see right. I can't hear right. This. We're going to tell you all that. We're going to talk about a survivor mindset. I'm going to set you up with a threat assessment team, a working threat assessment team. That is usually through management or human resource. We're going to make sure that's going, and we're going to have time for questions and comments at the end. So the de-escalation training, this is a standalone training, or it's usually included in the active shooter response training because it's such a big a component to that. Why do we do de-escalation training? Prevention of violence, promotion of safety, preservation of relationships. That's customer service 101. Enhanced communication. We're going to reduce legal and financial consequences, minimization of emotional impact, increased self-control. De-escalation is sometimes hard for people because we have testosterone, because we have egos, because no, but you're not going to say that to me. I'm going to bark back at you. So we're going to increase the self-control. Just breathe, talk, think, respect people. Applicability across various settings, support for mental health. We're going to promote a positive organizational culture. So de-escalation training is absolutely critical. I've got a friend, John, with gentle response training. Well, I just went blank on that. And he's all over the place. And I see him every day on social media. John Riley with Gentle Response. He travels the country as well as I do. He does an excellent de-escalation training. I would suggest you check out his website. Check out what he's doing. He'll come to you. Really, really good guy, but he's got some good insight on de-escalation training. De-escalation training is absolutely necessary. As a matter of fact, a lot of the businesses now are starting to get de-escalation training because we lack communication skills nowadays. Outline for de-escalation. Why is de-escalation critical? It's the item. It is the item that we have to do. It's critical because it's the main thing that's going to keep people from getting agitated. Why? Well, we're going to talk about why do people get agitated? Why is de-escalation sometimes hard? We're going to talk about pre-attack indicators. If you're trying to de-escalate somebody and they're standing like this, or they're doing this, or they're looking at you like this, or they're starting to move this way, or your furniture is designed in your HR office this way, you better be ready because something's coming your way. What are the signs that we need to start de-escalation techniques? Who can we de-escalate? Do we de-escalate an active shooter? Do we de-escalate a fellow employee that's angry? Do we de-escalate somebody in a road rage incident? Or you cut somebody off in traffic, or you're at the gas station, somebody comes up and starts screaming at you. Who can we de-escalate, and who do we just immediately put distance between? How do we de-escalate? It's hostage negotiations 101. How do we keep calm with signs of substance abuse? Can you de-escalate somebody on substance abuse? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The ultimate goal is to reduce injuries, save lives, and deliver great customer service. Respecting our employees, respecting people we come up with. It's okay to walk away. It is perfectly okay to walk away. If somebody comes up to me and starts yelling and screaming at me, and I yell and scream back, and I don't de-escalate, if they pull out a knife, if they stab me, I'm going to the hospital or the morgue. If they pull out a gun or a knife and I shoot them, I'm going to the police department and I'm going to court and I'm going to get sued. Whole bunch of trouble. But what if I turn and walk away and get in my vehicle and leave? I got nothing. I don't have to worry about anything. I left them. They got a problem. They're angry, but you know what? I've put distance. It's okay. It is perfectly okay to walk away. I stress that in my gun classes. Be humble, walk away. It doesn't matter. People don't matter. If I don't know you or if you're getting on to me, you don't matter to me. I always like to say the lion does not care about what the sheep think about him. It doesn't matter. Walk away. I'll be the first one to back down and walk away to save having to shoot somebody or hurt somebody. But we also have the mindset. You have to have the mindset that if somebody backs you in a corner and gives you no choice, you're going to have to do, and you had better do what you need to do, so you're the one going home. So getting back to business after the unthinkable, this is where we go out and we do a debrief and a reunification. It's not counseling, and I'm not a therapist. That's not what I'm going out there for. It's critical. We talked about people and structure. Talked about how do I do it? I'm going to respond ASAP to the incident. You call me and I'm making arrangements. As long as I'm in town and available, I am making arrangements to come to your place. This isn't anything where you keep me on retainer. I'm not asking for your money up front. You call me and I'm on the way. We're going to change the dynamics of the location. We're going to teach you how to get these people back in here without putting them right back in the same exact looking room where they just saw something horrible. We're going to meet with staff family directly involved, any that wants to meet, we're going to meet with them one-on-one. We're going to meet with them as a group. We're going to talk, and we're going to start the healing process. The meeting is confidential. And then you know what we're going to do after we do this? They've been stressed out enough because what they just saw. We're going to meet with them for a day. We're going to get them relaxed. We're going to let them know that everything is okay. No matter what they did, it's okay, because you've probably never been in that situation before. And at the time, what you did, what you thought was right, is okay. We're not out there to point fingers. We're not out there I don't write anything down and I don't record it. So you know what? The less there is for an attorney to grab and say what they say in this meeting, that's not what this is about. This is not about litigation. It's not about getting you in deeper, and it's not about getting you out of trouble. This is about protecting our people. After we do all this, we're going to go out and have pizza or barbecue, whatever they want to do, or we'll bring in pizza. I like to take them out somewhere, because a lot of people after an attack like this are absolutely petrified to get back out into public. So let's do the debriefing, the reunification. Everybody's on the same sheet of music. Everybody feels better because they got a lot of things off their chest. Then we're going to go out and have a good time. We're going to have some pizza, whatever they want to do, but we're going to go out and have a good time, and we're going to start reintroducing them back to the normalcy of life after seeing that. Hostile work environments. When I do a facility review, I've done some major facilities, and we've done reviews of the locations. I've done a few auto manufacturers, food manufacturers, a lot of food manufacturers that you've probably enjoyed their product once, if not twice today. We've done major pharmaceutical companies, mom and pop businesses. But when I do the facility review, I walk around with the CEO and usually HR and the facility manager. And in some locations, we'll walk past employees. And so let me tell you, I'm not good on names. I'm just not. When I was a police officer, I was, but I'm just not good on names. I never forget a face or where I know them from or where I've dealt with them from, but I'm just not good at remembering names. It may be because I meet so many people every day and every week and every month on the type of business I do. But if I don't know their name, I can still say hello to them. And when I do these facility reviews, I walk past some of these employees with these big wigs from the company, and they don't even give them a head nod. They don't give them a, hey, how you doing? I appreciate the work you're doing. Anything I can do for you? Nothing. That's a hostile work environment. Back up a little bit. When I walk into those locations, I can feel the tension as soon as I walk in. That's a hostile work environment. Hostile work environments breed active shooters. Now, on the flip side, there's been a lot of facilities, probably with the majority of facility reviews I've done, where I've walked past employees and the CEO, the facility manager, or the HR manager. These are big facilities. These people are important. The CEO, the HR guy, you don't just, HR guy and girl, you don't just go into their office. I mean, these are top level people, and they walk past their employees and they say, how are you? I appreciate what you're doing. If they know their name, John, Betty, Martha, whatever it is, you doing okay? You're doing a great job, and I appreciate you. That is a non-hostile work environment. Those people appreciate the boss just simply recognizing them. Man, the CEO came down on the floor today, and he looked at me, and he knew my name, and he said, good job, I appreciate what you're doing. That comment is going back home to the family, because that means a lot. That person will work hard for you, and now we don't have a hostile work environment. So your next step at reducing injuries and saving lives, call us, T4Tactics. You can email me at info@t4tactics.com. I will get some information from you. I will send you a free quote. I'm not in this business to get rich. I'm in this business to reduce injuries and save lives. So if you compare my pricing to others, my product is well above others. I don't talk over their heads. When I'm doing my active shooter response training, I don't show a lot of charts and graphs and statistics. That's not going to save lives. What's going to save lives is what happened and what worked and what did not work. So you send me an email. I'll send you a proposal. There is absolutely no obligation. If I don't hear back from you about a week, I'm going to check on you and see if you had any questions on the proposal. After that, I leave you alone. Some people get the proposal and they're unable to move forward for whatever reason. Other people get it and they come back. So no pressure. If you put in the original email your business name, your address, I'll take it from there. I'll do a Google search and see what's in your area. I'll see where you're located. I'll send you a proposal that spells out every single thing I'm going to do to your business when I get out there and your employees. And like I said, available to all over the country. It's October 16th, and next week I'll be in San Francisco and Sacramento. Following that, Indianapolis, and then we're in North Carolina, Buffalo, New York, and then we're back to Chicago. And then it'll be the end of the year. We'll be at 2025, moving quickly. If you want to contact me or if you want to follow me, I'm on social media. YouTube is a pretty popular one. Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, I do a lot of safety videos on active shooter response. So when I go out to these locations, I'll come back and you give me a couple days and I'll do a video on what really happened out there. So a lot of times I'll go out to these locations and I'll interview people, and then I leave and I think, you know what, that's nothing. What the news said happened out there is nothing like what I just heard. Everybody has an agenda. I asked Frank DeAngelis, the Columbine principal that was there that day, the horrible attack, what's the best documentary on Columbine? And he said there isn't one, because everybody has an agenda. Everybody's got to sell the product. Everybody's got to turn it around. So if you follow me on social media, you'll see some of the truth of that. I really appreciate you listening to my presentations. If I can be of any assistance at all, you can go to my T4Tactics website. It's a letter T, the number 4tactics.com. But you can look at my T4Tactics website. We've got podcast also. On the top of my website, you click on podcasts. There's a lot of safety videos, a lot of things that pertain to church safety. We do a lot of church training and then regular businesses. But I appreciate your time. Thanks again for tuning in, and take care. Remember, reduce injuries and save lives.